Welcome back to yet another amazing conversation with an inspiring leader. I'm Marc Pitman, the author of The Surprising Gift of Doubt. By the end of the day, I'm almost getting it to go normally. Yay! I happen to have a copy here too, Jesse.
I've got two.
Oh, well, there you go. I've got about 250 over there. Not really, because almost though. Jesse Finkelstein is one of the principals of Page 2 Books, and she has been the kind of guide, guru, shepherd, encourager, corraler of this book process. She got a messy manuscript that I thought was more complete than really it was. And her team has worked together to make it an amazingly tight manuscript. Jesse, this is my 8th book, and it's actually the one I really like reading. Like, I was reading it, and some people pulled some pull quotes for marketing, and it was like, I wish I had written that. Oh, I did write that.
That is awesome.
Thank you so much for helping bring this into the world, and thanks for celebrating with me on this really fun day.
Such a pleasure. I can't imagine a better way to celebrate. Well, I could be there in person with a bottle of champagne. Maybe that would one up this. But
Okay.
This is pretty great too.
I guess
so
there's
glad-
the whole closed
glad to
borders with
celebrate.
Canada and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
there's that, and
COVID.
pandemic. But
Yeah, right.
this pretty good. This is pretty good too.
Well, thank you so much. I've got so many questions for you, and I'm totally willing for the conversation to go wherever you want it to. But when it comes to leadership and doubt and helping people through it, it seems like you and Trina and the team are working with people that are always in different stages of imposter syndrome. What? Every time I've written a book, it's been a scare of, do I really have any credibility to say this? Is this really going to help people? What a privilege, first of all, to kind of be that midwife of helping people through that process. But how do you keep people from just jumping ship, and how do you help them stay with the program?
Wow, great. I mean, you called it. It is a privilege. This is a great question, but it is a real privilege to be in that position. We see ourselves as being, yes, midwives of the process, and also mirrors. Sometimes authors really need us to reflect back to them, what they're really doing, who they really are, what they have to say. And that is a privilege too. So often, for example, our approach at Page 2 is always, you're the expert. Not only do you know your subject matter really well, typically, but you also have an appreciation, usually. You also have an appreciation for who your audience is. So you have a great deal of market intelligence already. What you may need a lot of help with is shaping all of that knowledge into a manuscript and then into a book, and supporting the messaging of all of that. But we're here to help reflect that back to you. So I remember some of our earliest conversations, Marc, where we were talking about this book and how great it is to also hold it in my hands, this book. When we were just talking about it, and you had several different ways of framing the content. You already had most of the content. It needed to be edited and shaped, but you knew what the book is, right? It was inside you. It was when you started talking about the concept of doubt per se, because this is a leadership book writ large. You squeeze a lot of information and insight for leaders into this book. It's a very wide spectrum of things that you represent. But it was when you started talking about looking at it through the lens of the gift of doubt that suddenly I lit up. And you probably could, I remember you saw that in me, and I said, that's it. Tell me more about that. So it wasn't for me to tell you what your book should be. You already knew, but I could help kind of draw it out by asking the right questions. And it's teasing it out. It's querying. And that plays itself out through the whole process as well. And it is surprising.
Well, it's no doubt.
Yeah.
I know many of the authors. Part of the reason I chose Page 2 was because the authors that I get to associate with are people that I want to anyway. And so that was definitely, congratulations, kudos for you and the team for having such a good, well, one of those top 10 in our category things I posted from Friday. 3 of them were page 2 authors. Myself,
Great.
Eric, and Bonnie, I think. It was kind of, yeah. So, I mean,
And
it's,
Michael. Yeah,
oh, that's right. It was
right.
4 of us out of the,
Yeah, I
and
know.
3 of those were Chip Gaines. So
I don't know what he
that is
was doing there.
fascinating. Page 2 authors are representing well. This is really, I mean, not that Chip is, but we were in the top 10 that he dominated. So, um, what has it been like for you personally as a leader to just kind of navigate the pandemic? Has it, because I'm assuming some publication, like marketing has changed, like book sales have probably changed.
Everything has changed. I mean, there's been a shift in how we've had to support our authors as a team, and then a shift
Hmm.
in how we support the team and how we connect
Yeah.
with one another. And that's true of everybody, right? We're all going through that to some degree, whether it's within your household, with your family, with your team, with your organization. And in a way, page 2, we have such a collaborative approach as you've experienced. We really are in it together. And so to not have any of us in the same space together most of the time, that was the biggest shift that we've been had to navigate, and that we continue to navigate. It's really not easy, and as it isn't for anyone. But then the added layer of supporting our authors and thinking about not only what the marketing constraints might be, how are you running your events? You know, this is something you've been living out, and look at you innovating and creating an event series like this, which is fantastic. So helping our authors navigate the marketing considerations, but even some of the writing considerations. We've had authors writing books through the pandemic
Hmm.
and needing to think about, well, the world is different now. How much of that do I need to represent in the book? How much of that will be time sensitive? And with any luck, we'll be thinking about the pandemic in as ancient history, at some point,
Right.
right? So to what extent do you need to bring it into your book, depending on what your subject matter is? So talk about gifts of doubt. We had to be very candid with our authors all the way along that this truly is something that we haven't experienced before. And the closest corollary I could think in my career was selling and marketing books in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, and
Wow.
how that, at least, I mean, globally to some extent, and then for a long time within North America, that really changed the course of sales and marketing and the conversation, the global, conversation around anything. And
Wow.
so I kept using that as my only point of reference for something that so severely changed the conversation. And we had to recognize what we didn't know as well as what we did.
Well, that's one thing I love about, and obviously I write about similar things in the book, but your communication with your authors was very much there. Here's how books are being sold in print and digital, and here's what we're seeing in the different markets and around the world. You guys have been really helpful, and forging new partnerships and stuff with different distributors. So that's, yeah.
On the fly, but again, taking a lot of cues from our authors, right? Being that
Mhm.
mirror. For example, being able to share with our authors. It's not that we come up with all the big ideas of how to publish books in the pandemic. It's we have some good ideas, but our authors are sharing with us what they want to do. We may help them, but we're able to then share some of those ideas with other authors as well, and navigate things that way.
I hadn't thought about the kind of datedness that COVID references may be in the book.
Yeah.
I didn't have that, and the only thing I could come close to is possibly the note on privilege, because it was right around the time I was writing it, right around the time of George Floyd's murder. But
Yeah.
it was interesting to see that this had been going back in my awareness for years too, so that isn't even dated.
That's right.
Which is, but that what an interesting time for to be writing books. I hadn't thought of that.
It is. And in your case, because what you're writing about was in essence quite a perennial topic
Yeah.
anyways, you didn't you didn't need that additional layer of support. But we have some authors writing books right now, for example, on um, the topic of speaking, presenting,
Wow.
how you show up at events, how you own your podium. Then we had some people writing about Imagine things like self-help books, navigating grief, for example. Well, grief takes on a whole new form under these circumstances. And so how to reference these things in a way that is responsive to the moment and doesn't ignore the elephant in the room, but on the other hand, also doesn't place undue emphasis on it, because we want the book to become perennial and to not feel dated. There's always a way.
So interesting to think about speaking, because I met you through a group of speakers that would get together annually. And I'm looking at my office, and it's basically a studio in a way that it wasn't a year ago.
Nope. When we started working together, we were talking about, well, how many books are you going to need for all of your in-person events, right?
That's right.
And fortunately, I feel, fingers crossed, we're right on the cusp of starting to have that conversation in very meaningful terms going forward. And in the meantime, we've had the conversation about how many ebooks do you want to, be able to have people download at your virtual events. So
right, and I love that you all allow us to have like bulk sales with ebooks. So it's simply, conferences and shameless plug, conferences and associations that want to hire me can get bulk distributions for the favorite e-readers of their audience, whatever that is.
With dedicated download links, device agnostic. It's a beautiful solution for all conference organizers out there.
Yeah.
Listen
to her.
Yeah. Simple and elegant solution.
So one of the things that we're getting to hear about in these conversations too is some of the personal side of people. What brought you to Page Two? Did you kind of grow up knowing that you were going to be a hybrid book publisher? Was that like what you played?
I always wanted. Well, I mean, to answer directly, I have the straightest career path you've ever seen. I've wanted to work with books ever since I can remember. I just didn't think that I was an entrepreneur. And guess what? Now I think I'll forever be an entrepreneur. I hope so. And it was actually, in a way, it was embracing the gift of doubt, to use your concept, that allowed me to move from being someone who loved working with books to someone who felt that I could build and lead a company with my business partner, Trina. So we had worked, both of us, in the publishing industry for a long time, and we loved our jobs and we loved working with authors, but we didn't love the constraints of the traditional publishing model as we saw them. Yeah. And so I think it was embracing those doubts and embracing it wasn't just a vision that we had for what we could do better. It was tuning into what our authors were saying to us about what would improve the process for them. And I think that it was really through thinking, there is another way. It's not that we necessarily know exactly what that path looks like, but we trusted what our authors were telling us, and we trusted that many of them would be there on the other side, saying, I can join up with your crazy model and see how this works and test it out. And so that was the real shift that I think I made. And to the point, one of the points that you make in your book, I think it was really realizing that I didn't, as a leader of a company, I didn't need to have all of the answers, that I could trust the fact and honor the fact that I had doubts. Even with our authors, I could say, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm going to find out. And in particular, with my business partner, Trina, and my co-founder, and with our whole team, we can find the answers. We can figure out the solutions. We don't have to pretend that we know that we know everything right away. We can figure it out.
Well, that's one of the things that I've loved for you as an author with your team, is that if you didn't know, I knew you'd find out, or somebody on the team would find out. It was always that integrity that was there, and the commitment. The cast of characters, I likened it once to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. I don't know if you've ever read that book. So
I didn't hear you say that.
I would talk to somebody, asked, what's it like working with Page Two? And I said, well, there was a point there where I felt like it was Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, because I was on stage, but there was this revolving cast of characters, like the whole set of Hamlet coming in, and all of a sudden there were like all these editors that are helping me, or all these designers that are helping me, or all these marketing people and distribution and foreign translation rights. And so it's been, at one point it was a little overwhelming, but it was overwhelming of riches. It was like, I'm so glad there's a team here, and it's not just me, because I've, 5 of my books, I guess, I've done on my own. And so I know what it's like to try to be remembering everything.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, honestly, this is the first book that out of the 8 that I get out of the box right away. And it was just all smiles and delight. I was just so stinking excited about it. And I've loved that the designer came up with this scribble thing, because that wasn't in our concept at all, but it's immediately fit the message. And I've got ties being made with it, so it'll be scribble ties and
a hat.
Yeah, I've got a hat. It's in another room, but yes, I have a hat with the embroidery, and it's just kind of fun how it's taken on a life of its own too, which I did not see merch coming out of a book deal, but I'm good with it. I like merch.
I love it. I think we all had the bow tie in mind for obvious reasons. That's a representative of your brand, but we knew you wanted to kick it up a notch. And I do think there is something, I mean, I love that about book design, right? That you can have something like this sort of loose expression of uncertainty and thought and this little explosion, and have it just it's going to mean different things to different people who perceive it.
Totally does too. In the interviews, people are saying how brilliant, and then they'll give their like what it means to them, and it's like you just smile and nod. Yeah, oh yeah, that is brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. That was my intention. Exactly.
Wow. No, I tried to stop short of that, unless it was. Yeah, we had that one in mind too. Yeah, but it's kind of like this. Well, it's kind of like the process that we describe in the book of growth not being linear necessarily, but being organic and multifaceted, and allowing that symbols like this to be multifaceted too, the meanings.
I think so. And I think it provokes curiosity, which is also what I see, what I really read into your book, the idea of embracing our curiosity. If we can embrace our doubt as leaders, we can also ask the right questions to come to the right answers, right? Ask the questions of our team, of our staff, of our authors, clients. And that's also what your book represents for me, and what I think we were trying to visually represent through our revolving cast of characters on the team. What we collectively were trying to do for you.
It's so funny that you hadn't heard that, but it's very, it fits so well. And it was wonderful. It is wonderful to know that we're together, even though the book is out, there's still the distribution and the marketing is, I feel like there's so much support still, and it's really, really cool.
Absolutely. Well, can I make one last plug since we're on Amazon Live?
Thank
you. I just say tomorrow, launch day, is when you can start. I mean, there are so many ways. We all know that Marc's book is out all over the world, bookstores everywhere. On Amazon in particular, there's so many different ways to engage. You can pre-order. Please pre-order. You can order after it launches tomorrow if you want to wait one day. That's fine. Okay. And then you can also, tomorrow after launch, post a review for anyone who writes and feels moved by the experience. Those reviews mean a lot, and it helps to gain this kind of visibility, given how we're trying to position Marc's book as being unique in its field. Those reader reviews really help. So I just have to say that as your publisher, that there are so many ways to support you and to support this book. And so please don't forget to do all of those things.
Well, thank you so much. Emily and I couldn't be more proud to be partnering with you guys. And I love that you allowed us to be part of, like both of us, to be part of the process. For those of you who don't know, Emily's my wife. But my wife and I, to be part of this, it was co-partnership the whole way. The Page 2 team understood that, and I'm really proud with the product that we've created.
We couldn't be more proud, and absolutely big shout out to Emily. I kept thinking, I wouldn't mind having an Emily over here to help me navigate anything.
I laughed when you said in your email, what would Emily say at WWES?
Yeah. I'm going to be thinking about that acronym anytime I come to a crossroads. Emily, what would you say about this? She might get the odd email from me down the road. I hope she remembers.
She would be honored, I'm sure. And this launch day idea was because Emily said, wait, Nadia Boltz-Weber did this thing with talking to people on the hour. What if you did that? So really glad for that. Jesse, thank you for being a cheerleader through this process. Thanks for helping, hold my hand and help us to create something that is, I firmly believe and have been told by others. Well, this is the first book I've ever written where not only did 30 people endorse it, holy cow, that's a lot of endorsements.
It was. We had trouble cramming them in here, I have to say.
I was
talk about an embarrassment of riches.
And they're good endorsements. It's like they're all really amazing people. So this was the first time where I've had people say nice things about my book and then have the afterward thing. So, Mark's book is great, blah, blah, blah. And hey, Marc, thank you so much for what you said on page 62, because I'm putting that into my life and it's changing who I am. And I know it's because of Kendra and the other editors that really helped me shape this into the way that actually would communicate well. So thank you.
I'm just thrilled. It's a gift to us and it is a privilege. Thank you so much, Marc.
You're welcome. And everyone, just listen to what Jesse said and get the book now. Why wait? And then set a review tomorrow at the time.
Agreed. I was giving options, but why bother? Why bother?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't wait.
Thank you so much, Jesse. We'll see you probably at the book launch party tomorrow night.
Definitely at the book launch party. Thank
you.
See you. Bye.